Voting is a civic duty. Let's register on the electoral list. This is a message from Equinoxe Television.
Hi sir, to all of you viewers of Equinoxe Television, welcome back from the weekend. It's time for the news tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Our major stories this evening: domestic violence continues in our Cameroonian society despite denunciation from the civil society and also the public as a whole. A man stabs his girlfriend to death here in Douala, precisely at the Bilonge neighborhood, for alleged infidelity, while over in Ezeka, another man kills his nephew for allegedly having affairs with his wife. We will be telling you more about those tragic incidents in this edition of the news. And as the world celebrates the Day of the African Child today, thousands of children in Cameroon face a daily struggle against life-threatening diseases like malaria, anemia, and pneumonia. According to health experts, the rise in the cases is largely attributed to delayed consultations due to financial constraints. To address the issue, a free consultation campaign took place here in Douala today. Our viewers, those are our major stories. Details and more when we come back. Welcome back, viewers. Thank you so much for the confidence. We begin with this tragic event. In Ezeka, a man allegedly kills the nephew for allegedly having an affair with his wife. One person has been arrested after he reportedly killed his cousin with a machete in the Nyonganekele division of the Central Region. Witness account says Lijak, the alleged murderer, wasn't happy with the way his cousin intervened in his matrimonial life. The lifeless body of his cousin has been deposited at the morgue in Ezeka, as Manjikan Gabriel tells us in the report which comes up next.
The pains of losing the breadwinner of the family is still fresh at the residence of Bakaist, who was allegedly murdered by his own uncle Linjek. The incident that occurred at Limouck village under Yabi Chiefdom in Mesondo subdivision of Yongankele division took even one of the close relatives by surprise. It was at about 8 p.m. when I was going to the road to get a cup of palm wine when I surprisingly fell on my brother butchering his cousin. I was courageous enough to disarm my brother, but I lacked words to explain what I saw. Bakaist, who was managing with a commercial motorbike as well as doing some farm work to put food on the table of his family, had a painful death that even his family is unable to accept the demise of their husband and father. I'm finished. He is the only helper I have since I left my mother. My husband didn't even tell me goodbye. I'm finished. Let the killer of my husband be punished alongside his accomplice. If not for the intervention of local authorities in Limouck village, properties belonging to the assassin could have been destroyed. The inhabitants were very angry that if I didn't cool their anger, they would have broken and destroyed everything inside his house, and if he was seen, he would have been beaten to death. When the commander came, he asked for Emmanuel, who enabled the killer to escape. But thank God, the gendarmes arrested him. It is alleged that Bakais did not like the manner in which his uncle beat his wife always. It was as a result of that his uncle decided to use a machete on him. The murderer, Linjek, is behind bars at the Gendarmerie Brigade in Ezeka.
Sad indeed. And now today, June 16, Cameroon joins other countries the world over to commemorate the International Day of the African Child, and it comes when thousands of children in Cameroon face a daily struggle against life-threatening diseases such as malaria, anemia, and pneumonia. According to health experts, the rise in cases is largely attributed to delayed consultations due to financial constraints. To address this issue, a free consultation campaign was organized at the Protestant Hospital in Dokpati here in Douala. Immaculate Fogwe with the details.
Children in Cameroon face numerous health challenges that affect their well-being and development. Many have suffered from malaria, anemia, pneumonia, cholera, and other diseases. Limited access to health care, particularly in rural areas, has contributed to high mortality rates. To commemorate the African Child Day, the Protestant Hospital in Dokpati, Douala, organized a free consultation campaign for children aged between 0 to 16 years. According to Dr. Lola Ko-Olivier, the campaign is timely and the test conducted will help determine the prevalence rate among kids.
Blood, we call hemoglobin level, and then other for malaria, we can do also those exams and some exams of stool. So, if you have a child from 0 to 16 years, then you can bring him free of charge. The consultation is free, and we would like to help those parents. Not only for consultation, but also to be aware of what are the children's rights and their obligations.
Parents praised the hospital's efforts while encouraging other parents to take advantage of free consultations. I came here with my 5 kids. Life is really hard, and paying consultation fee for all of them isn't easy. I am grateful for this opportunity to consult my children. One was diagnosed with anemia and another had an infection. Now I'll look for ways to treat them. By offering free consultation on June 16, the International Day of the African Child, the hospital's initiative will help ensure children are healthy and reduce mortality rates.
Internally displaced persons seeking refuge in Douala and other major cities of Cameroon continue to express serious concerns. Most of those who fled their homes due to the crisis in the northwest and southwest regions still find it difficult to make ends meet because of the precarious conditions in which they live. In a workshop held in Douala by civil society actors, the IDPs called for government support, which they believe has been minimal so far. Lucy Diengu is here reports.
The socio-political crisis plaguing the Anglophone regions of the country for the past 9 years has continued to have devastating effects. As a result, internally displaced persons are struggling to make ends meet across Cameroon where they are seeking refuge.
Problems of feeding, where to sleep, rentage, and school fees. The accommodation we don't have. Where we live, there are some people that empty the sheet on the floor to sleep, some on their chairs. You enter in some houses, they don't have mattress to sleep on it.
Just like Olivia, many IDPs are jobless and have little or no capital to start a business.
Now I'm in the house, I'm just struggling because of lack of capital. And others, they sell, most of them, they fry this pop-off, they hawk.
Despite government's commitments, providing support to this vulnerable group remains a significant issue. To alleviate the suffering of internally displaced persons from the Anglophone regions, civil society actors and authorities in Cameroon, specifically in Douala, which hosts many IDPs, are brainstorming solutions. We want to extend a helping hand to this vulnerable group, especially our brothers and sisters who have left their homes due to the crisis. These individuals have endured hardships caused by the crisis. Why not assist them? In a workshop held at the Bipanda Multifunctional Center, organized by African women entrepreneurs, they were trained in various arts and crafts to empower them.
I really wish that if they can assist us, There are some people that are seamstress, hairdressers, but they don't have any material.
A fund-raising event for this charity gala was held, marking its 3rd edition in Cameroon after similar events in other African countries.
In politics, as the presidential election in Cameroon fast approaches, civil society actors and artists have been lending their voices for a common good. Cameroonian artist Caresse Fosso in a recent outing calls on the local population to be vigilant and avoid falling in the same trap of the government officials who propagate or use tribalism to cause division among them in order to stay in power. Innocent Aze with details.
Cameroonian musical artist Caresse Fosso is one of millions of Cameroonians who believe government officials fuel tribalism and hate speech that divides the population to their advantage. Caresse Fosso, in a statement, calls on the suffering and divided Cameroonians to be very vigilant this 2025, being an electoral year with change envisaged. What happens in Cameroon is not a tribal issue, but a system issue. Let us be vigilant this 2025. We must not fall in the same trap again. The music icon discloses those who constitute the cause of the suffering Cameroonians face do not belong to a single tribe, but come from all of the ethnic groups in Cameroon. So it is not an issue of a particular tribe, but bad governance, and what must be changed is a system and not a tribe. Let's look closely. From the presidency to the Senate, including the National Assembly, the ministries, the general directorates, all these tribes are represented there. But what have they done together? They united to make us suffer. And while they drink champagne among themselves, they, of all origins, teach us to hate each other, to divide us and to accuse each other. They tell us that if we don't have light, it's the fault of the opposing tribe. That if the water doesn't flow, if hospitals are collapsing, if schools are dying, if life is expensive, it's because of the other tribe. Caresse Fosso furthers in the statement that the government officials knew how to create their own tribe, a discreet but very real tribe of oppressors, pleasure seekers, and tribe of opportunists, while the people are pushed by the authorities to create a tribe of hatred, jealousy, division, and so on. According to Caresse Fosso, this has attained its peak, and time for Cameroonians to say enough and also create their own tribe, that of the children of Cameroon, from north to south and east to west. No matter their language, name and village, what unites them, the Cameroonian music star reminds, is the same suffering, the same thirst for justice, and the same desire to live with dignity. Caresse Fosso proposes this tribe be called the people. Her greatest expectation is for a change this 2025 for the good of every Cameroonian.
Staying in politics, a university don Professor Moise Timtweng has said the candidacy of Professor Maurice Kamto is valid according to the law. He was speaking at Verité en Face. He also decried issues linked to multiple or dual nationality in Cameroon. Let's have the highlight of that program with Babila Jonathan.
L'ignorance même du dispositif juridique qui doit régir la circulation routière.
Ignorance of the law governing the road transport sector in Cameroon is identified as one of the major causes of the conflict between law enforcement officers and commuters. University don, lecturer of law, Professor Moise Timtweng says,
Le texte n'a jamais été porté à la connaissance et du fonctionnaire et de l'usager.
Many law enforcement officers do not have a mastery of the road transport rules and regulations due to inadequate training in that domain. He also points to the indiscipline of road users and poor moral conduct by some officers. To help in finding solutions to the problem, he and 11 co-authors have written a book on road traffic within the Central African Economic and Monetary Community CEMAC region.
La circulation routière dans l'espace CEMAC.
Meantime, he reminds road users that jungle justice is forbidden.
It is forbidden in law to render justice to oneself. Okay? Whenever you are guilty of an abuse of your rights, you have to take the matter to the competent authority.
About dual nationality and the voting rights of Cameroonians in the diaspora, he decries the double standard implementation of the 1968 Nationality Code.
When you are in good relation with the system, there is tolerance for your multiple nationalities.
According to Professor Moise Timtreng, the nationality law in Cameroon has to be revised to take away the discriminatory aspect, allowing only women married to foreign nationals and citizens of less than 21 years of age to benefit from dual or multiple nationality. In his reading and interpretation of the Constitution of Cameroon and the Electoral Code,
La candidature de Maurice Kamto ne peut pas être remise à cause.
The candidacy of Professor Maurice Kamto should not be a subject of debate and controversies because his party, the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, has the legal ground to present a candidate in the forthcoming presidential election.
We told you in the headlines that domestic violence is still a major problem in Cameroon despite denunciation from the public and also from civil society actors. Over the weekend, a man reportedly beat up his girlfriend and mother of his baby to death for alleged infidelity. Cedric Chakucho was at Bilonge. He now tells us what happened.
It was a sad weekend in Bilonge, a neighborhood in the Douala. It was a sad weekend in Bilonge, a neighborhood in the Douala 3 subdivision. Residents of this neighborhood will struggle to erase from their memories the atrocities they experienced on the night of Friday to Saturday. In a room, 2 bodies were found in a pool of blood. According to witnesses on the scene, a man allegedly killed his ex-girlfriend and attempted to kill himself. I understood in a room, help me, help me. I asked, but what's wrong? That's when I realized that it's my neighbor who is in danger. I glanced over and saw the man. He grabbed his girlfriend on the bed and stabbed her repeatedly. The ex-boyfriend, after he allegedly killed his girlfriend, will try to run from the scene, bringing along with him a girl of 2-year-old who witnessed the scene. While he tried to escape with the child, I saw the child with blood. He left again, crying, and closed himself in the room. By the time the neighbors intervened, we realized the door locked. We flashed the light inside. We saw him stabbing each other and the child seated on the bed, watching everything her father is doing. By the time the crowd arrived, we said to ourselves that he's already dead, yet that's the plan he was making. According to some neighbors, Angel, 24-year-old, tried several times to run away from her ex-boyfriend, who was brutal and was threatening to kill her for a long while. He hit her several times until a pregnancy of 5 months came out. When the neighbors intervened, we chased him away. He never came back, and now he's back to finish with the girl. The motive of the murder is still to be determined, as the lifeless body of Angel was brought to the Lakentini Hospital morgue.
We can't emphasize enough, whenever there is violence, live to live. Viewers, that does it for the first part of the news. Let's now move on to Talking Point. Welcome back, viewers. Today we are celebrating or commemorating the International Day of the African Child. We know it was instituted after several children in South Africa protested in the streets, clamoring for their rights to education. They were massacred in Soweto several years ago. Talking about the African child in Cameroon, our guest tonight is Dr. Alphonse Faure. Thank you, Doc, for accepting to be our guest tonight. You're the coordinator of Street Child Cameroon. You are part of the Street Child Initiative. Can you tell us what it is all about?
Thanks indeed, Anne, for inviting my modest person to be part of this program on the station TV of Equinoxe. Street Child is an organization founded upon the principle that children should be safe in school and learning, especially in hard-to-reach and resource-limited environments like Cameroon. The organization works in the domain of child protection, education and emergencies, water sanitation and health, and of course livelihood, entrepreneurship, skills development, so that those ecosystem can be built around creating safety nets for a proper development of children in Cameroon and in all the other 26 countries where we operate around the world.
Now, what have you been doing so far for street children in Cameroon?
I'll give a simple example. As a result of the numerous crisis situations happening in Cameroon and around the world, we're talking about the Anglophone crisis, we're talking about the refugee crisis in the eastern part of the country, we're talking about Boko Haram, which has led to an insurgency of the number of children who are not in school, children who are suffering cases of rape, children who are into forced marriages, children who are selling on the streets, and other children who find themselves in environments which are nefarious to their proper upbringing as children. We work with different civil society organizations in these regions to ensure that these children are identified, brought back into safety, given the level of mental health and psychosocial support they need, given the level of livelihoods that they need in order to live well, and of course taken back into safety and into proper education so that they can grow up as normal human beings as provided for by the Convention for the Rights of the Child.
Dr. Alphonse, you told me earlier that was of air that there is a difference between street child and a child in the streets. The difference, you said, lies in vulnerability. Can you explain that further?
You need to start by understanding or agreeing with me that children by their very nature are vulnerable. By dint of the level of mental development, by dint of their physique, by dint of their psychology, they are vulnerable. Now, the child who is vulnerable does not necessarily mean they are out there in the streets. There is a difference between a child on the streets and a street child. There are some children who live at home, but who are facing all manner of abuses from their caregivers and even from their parents. For example, the cases we've seen recently of children facing things like incest happen within family settings. Children who are sent to sell things at road junctions where they could be faced with exposure to accidents and gangs and marijuana smokers live in homes. At the same time, children who live in the streets face the same challenges, but the difference being that the environment in which they stay before facing this challenge is different from what the other children face. So the concept of street child does not necessarily mean someone living in the streets. It means a child who lives in an environment which exposes them with an avalanche of threats, an avalanche of challenges which could derail that child from growing up normally and gaining the required mental, physical, and psychological needs that will require them to grow up normally and become responsible citizens in that environment where they live.
You just mentioned incest there. Let's talk about the recurrent cases of sexual harassment of children in our society and our communities. Several cases of incest and rape have been reported lately. What can be the push factors, and what do you do, you guys, what do you do to protect these children as a panacea?
You know, we live in an environment which is influenced greatly by a lot of things happening within and without. Technological developments, exposure to what is happening in other cultures, mystical practices, economic hardship, and what have you. So with all of these things happening in the environment, there is a possibility for children to act as a collateral damage to the things happening, because some of the parents may be involved in nefarious activities and drag their children into it by brainwashing those children and causing them to believe that incest is a good thing. We want to say that as an international NGO, we do not support such activities. We're totally against any act that could have a negative impact on the social, psychological, and physical upbringing and development of the child. Imagine the kind of stress and the trauma that such an act may cause to a child when they eventually grow up knowing that they had such relationship with their biological parents. So as the civil society, we condemn with our last energy this kind of act, and we hope that the powers that be will be able to use the authority bestowed on them to bring the perpetrators of such nefarious acts to book.
Now, to help the victims, you mentioned reinsertion. How do you go about it in the case of sexual assault?
We work in partnership and in collaboration with other civil society organizations and with government departments in charge of child protection. I'd like to mention here the Ministry of Social Affairs through what we call child protection case management. It follows a specific procedure. Once a child is identified as being at risk, there's a procedure whereby this child is followed up right up to the services of the Ministry of Social Affairs so that that child's specific circumstance can be managed in a way as to solve it and reinsert that child into normal family life. And that is what we've been doing through several projects that we've been implementing in Cameroon in collaboration with the wider civil society and with the Ministry of Social Affairs. Child protection case management, from case identification to referrals to closure of cases so that children can once again regain their dignity and be reinserted into proper family life.
And now talking about the Ministry of Social Affairs, there is this project on the protection of children, especially those who are victims of child labor, like underage children hawking on highways. Tell us more about that, Doctor.
We had the pleasure of having the Honorable Minister of Social Affairs preside over the launch of a new project, the Child Protection Case Management Project, which seeks to identify the cases of children working in cocoa farms and the cocoa value chains as a whole in the center, southeast, and littoral regions of Cameroon by helping these children to be extracted from those difficult environments where they work. You understand that only recently, on the 12th of this month, was the celebration of the World Day Against Child Labor. So naturally, that activity was in tandem with the activities that will be happening or that have happened today against the framework of the Day of the African Child, by ensuring that no child is put at risk for economic reasons. No child is put at risk working in an environment which could be detrimental to their health and to their proper mental, psychological, and physical upbringing. And we're happy to say that through that project, we're going to be putting into use the child protection standard operating procedures, administrative tools, and protocols, which were recently developed with the technical support of Street Child and funding from UNICEF, and with the vetting from the government, so that children in Cameroon can henceforth be protected using a harmonized procedure that is operational throughout the national territory of Cameroon. And we're following up with that process by organizing tomorrow, the 17th of January, right up to the 21st of June, a workshop which seeks to train social workers, farm coaches, and child protection case supervisors on how to manage child protection cases using the recently approved standard operating procedures.
This year's Day of the African Child Dog is focused on proper education. What has Street Child been doing to break the barriers to education in African communities?
According to the Convention for the Rights of the Child, education is one of the rights of the child. And that means, in a holistic manner, government departments across the board, talking about the Ministry of Social Affairs, the Ministry of Women's Empowerment and the Family, the Ministry of Secondary Education, Basic Education, Employment and Vocational Training, and what have you, are supposed to work in tandem to ensure that the rights to education, formal, informal, and non-formal, of children are protected, because a child who acquires a right education is most likely going to succeed in life, as opposed to a child who misses out on that opportunity, perhaps because they were selling at Post Central or at Marché Mobi. They will not be able to acquire the required numeracy and literacy skills required for them to be able to grow up with a good mental faculty with which they could put to use in order to help themselves, help their families, and help the Cameroonian society, and why not the world at large, for a better world. So we are saying that education is non-negotiable for children, because they need to develop their mental and physical faculties in order to be able to become upright human beings who can contribute in a palpable and positive manner towards the development of their society.
Thank you so much, Dr. Alphonse, for accepting to be our guest tonight. Just to let our viewers know that you're the coordinator or country manager of the Street Child, and we're talking about the Day of the African Child, which has been commemorated today. Thank you again, and hope to have you some other time, Doc. Viewers, thank you so much for being with us. That was what we put together for you this evening on the news. Our programs continue. Equinoxe comes up in about 30 minutes with Zajaleng, and the news in the French language comes up at 8 p.m. Stay with us on Equinoxe Television. Bye-bye for now, and see you again tomorrow, same time, God willing.